Look at the world around you. The bridges you cross, the dams that hold back the water, the skyscrapers that touch the clouds. They are built from the bedrock of our civilization concrete, and so many of them are failing, crumbling, cracking, corroding from the inside out. We see the rust stains, the spider webs of fracture, and we are told it is normal. We are told it is maintenance, but it is decay. The Morandi Bridge in Genoa, Italy, a structure meant to stand for a century, collapsed in just 41 years. The Champlain Towers, south in Florida, a structure that disintegrated from within, a catastrophic, cascading failure of modern engineering, killing 98 people in their sleep, are modern marvels. These symbols of human achievement have an expiration date, 50 years, 100. If they are lucky, it is a guaranteed failure. We accept this as normal. We call it the cost of progress. But what if it is not progress? What if it is ignorance? What if the secret to permanent construction was known, perfected, championed by an entire empire, and then lost 2,000 years ago? Roman engineers built structures that defy this decay. They built harbors where the concrete grew stronger in the corrosive salt of the sea. They built domes that still stand, flawless against the weight of millennia. We must talk about the Pantheon, a 2,000-year-old structure built in Rome. It is crowned by a dome, 43 meters wide, with a 9-meter hole at its center, open to the sky. It is made of unreinforced concrete. By every law of modern engineering, it should have collapsed centuries ago. It should have cracked under its own immense weight. But it stands. Perfect. They used a material we call Opus Caementicium, literally, construction work, which we simply call Roman concrete. We have decoded genomes. We have walked on the moon. We have sent probes to the edge of the solar system, but we still cannot replicate this lost recipe. The question is not just how they did it. The real question, the one nobody asks, is why we forgot. This is not a story about engineering. This is a story about a glitch in our collective memory, a fatal error in our civilizational operating system, a warning, echoing from the ruins of an empire, telling us that the foundation of our modern world is built on borrowed time. To understand the glitch, you must first erase what you think you know about the ancient world. Forget the image of marble temples gleaming white. That was a facade, a thin veneer of stone over the real revolution. The true engine that powered Rome's expansion was not marble, it was mud, or more precisely, volcanic ash. The Romans were, above all else, practical builders. They were logisticians. They were military engineers. They needed to build fast, build strong, and build everywhere, from the damp frontiers of Britannia to the dry deserts of Syria. Their answer was Opus Caementicium. This was not just concrete as we know it. Our concrete is a fluid mix, poured into forms. The Roman method was different. It was a composite. They built sturdy wooden forms and then packed in layers of mortar, followed by layers of aggregate. This aggregate, the cementa, was not just gravel, it was rubble, chunks of demolished buildings, broken bricks, fist-sized pieces of tuff or basalt. They would lay a foot of mortar, then ram a layer of this rubble down into it, compacting it, before adding the next layer. The Pantheon itself is a marvel of this layered composite engineering. The aggregate at the base is heavy basalt. As the dome rises, the aggregate changes to lighter brick, and finally, at the very top, to feather-light pumice stone. They were engineering the weight of the material itself, but the true secret, the alchemical component, was the mortar. They took pozzolana. This was not just any sand. It was a specific, superheated volcanic ash forged in the earth, found near the simmering caldera of Mount Vesuvius. They mixed this magic ash with lime. When this mixture met water, a chemical reaction began. It did not just dry, like our concrete. It crystallized. It formed a calcium aluminum silicate hydrate compound. This molecular structure is inherently denser, more stable, and chemically inert compared to our modern Portland cement. In modern concrete, a similar reaction. The alkali-silica reaction is destructive. It forms a gel that expands and cracks the concrete from within. In Roman concrete, the specific, unique chemistry of the pozzolana, the high ratio of aluminum controlled this reaction, turning a modern weakness into an ancient strength, forming incredibly stable, interlocking bonds. Our concrete is strong in compression, but tragically weak in tension. It cracks. This is why we must add reinforcement. Steel rebar. But this rebar is its death sentence. Water seeps in through inevitable micro cracks. It finds the steel. Rust begins, rust, iron oxide, expands. It pushes the concrete apart from the inside out. It is a guaranteed failure. A built-in obsolescence. The Roman concrete esato had no steel rebar. It did not need it. The chemical bonds themselves were the reinforcement, but the true glitch in this system, the part that defies our modern understanding, is what happens when it gets wet. We must go to the coast. For 2,000 years, the harbor at Caesarea, an ambitious Roman port built in modern-day Israel, has been battered by the Mediterranean Sea. This was a monumental project. Herod the Great ordered his engineers to build a massive port out of nothing on an unstable coastline. They built enormous wooden caissons, some as large as a modern apartment building, towed them out to sea and sank them in precise locations. Then they filled them in place in the open ocean with hydraulic concrete. This act alone is baffling. Any modern concrete structure built with Portland cement and rebar would be sand and rubble in a fraction of that time. But the Roman concrete piers are stronger today than the day they were poured. Let me repeat that. They are stronger today. The salt water, the very element that is our concrete's poison, seems to be their concrete's cure. Scientific analysis of drill cores from these piers shows the seawater percolates through the concrete, dissolving the volcanic pozzolana, allowing new, exotic minerals to grow within the matrix. Minerals like altobermarite and philipsite. These are rare. Altobermarite is incredibly difficult to synthesize in a lab, requiring high temperatures, or it seems 2,000 years in seawater. These new crystals physically interlock, filling micro cracks, stitching the concrete together, making the entire structure denser, harder, more resilient. It does not just endure, it evolves, it heals. So, if this material was so miraculous, where did it go? Why did the most valuable construction secret in human history, a secret that powered an empire, simply vanish? The collapse of the Roman Empire in the 5th century Anno Domini was not an event. It was a process. It was the slow, agonizing unraveling of a complex, interconnected system. The knowledge was a casualty of this unraveling. There are 3 main theories, and the truth likely involves all of them. The first is the most practical. The supply chain collapsed. The Roman Empire was a miracle of logistics. Grain from Egypt, tin from Britain, marble from Greece, and pozzolana, the magic ash, from one specific place, the Bay of Naples in the shadow of Vesuvius. This ash was quarried on an industrial scale. It was a state-controlled monopoly. It was shipped in vast quantities to every corner of the empire. This entire system depended on a central authority, a powerful navy protecting the seas, and a network of roads maintained by legions. When the empire fractured in the 5th century, the borders slammed shut. The sea lanes became pirate-infested. The Roman roads fell into disrepair. There was no more empire. There were only local kingdoms, fragmented and at war. The demand for 50-mile-long aqueducts vanished. The scale of demand vanished, and so the scale of supply. The industrial quarrying and shipping of pozzolana disappeared with it. A builder in Britain or Gaul could no longer get the ash from Vesuvius. He tried using local sand. It did not work. The recipe failed. The knowledge was not lost instantly. It became localized, useless. A memory of something great that could no longer be built. The knowledge evaporated. One broken trade route, one forgotten quarry at a time. The second theory is more subtle and perhaps more tragic. The knowledge was never written down, not in the way we understand. Roman engineering was a craft, passed from master to apprentice. It was knowledge held in the hands, not just in the mind. They knew the feel of the mix. They knew the color of the ash sinam. They knew the sound of a proper mixture stirring. They knew by smell when the lime was ready. These were not chemical formulas. They were sensory data. This knowledge was protected fiercely within the guild system of the collegia, the Roman associations of craftsmen. These were trade secrets. They were not open source. Furthermore, the most advanced knowledge, especially for hydraulic concrete, was held by the military. The Fabri, the engineering corps of the Roman legions, were the ones building the great bridges, ports, and fortifications. This was classified military technology. When the legions were disbanded, recalled, or destroyed on distant frontiers, their libraries were burned. Their knowledge centers were physically eliminated. Vitruvius, the great Roman architect, wrote De Architectura. It is the only surviving comprehensive text on their methods. He tells us that they used pozzolana and lime, but he does not tell us the exact ratios. He does not tell us the mixing times. He does not tell us the curing temperatures. He assumed the reader already knew, or, more likely, he was not allowed to write it down. When the collegia were disbanded, when the master-apprentice chain was broken by decades of war, famine, and plague, the human chain of knowledge broke. The information was gone. It existed only in the muscle memory of men who were dead. The third theory is the most compelling, because it involves us. The secret was not just one ingredient. It was the process, and we were too arrogant to see it, for decades, for more than a century. Modern scientists have analyzed Roman concrete. They put it under microscopes, and for decades, they saw impurities, tiny, white, millimeter-sized chunks of lime, which they called lime clasts. They dutifully noted them in their papers, and they assumed this was evidence of sloppy mixing. They believed the Romans were primitive, unable to fully blend their materials. They thought, we do it better now, with our perfect, homogeneous, computer-controlled mixtures. This was modern arrogance. The glitch was not in the concrete, it was in us. Scientists at MIT, Harvard, and in Italy, led by Admir Masick, in just the last few years, proposed a new theory. A theory born from asking a simple question. What if they were not stupid? What if those lime clasts were not a mistake? What if they were the entire point. They theorized the Romans were not using standard slaked lime, which is lime that has been premixed with water in a safe and controlled process. This is what we have always assumed. Instead, they theorized the Romans were using quicklime, the raw, more dangerous and powdered form. Mixing quicklime directly with pozzolana and water is dangerous. It creates a violent exothermic reaction. It gets incredibly hot. The scientists replicated this. The temperatures spiked to over 200 degrees Celsius. This hot mixing process did two things. First, it forged chemical bonds and created compounds that are impossible to form at normal temperatures. It kick-started the creation of a stronger, more resilient concrete. Second, it left behind these little pockets of quicklime, the impurities. The high heat had created a structure where the lime clasts were brittle and highly reactive, a feature, not a bug. This is where the true genius is revealed. Imagine a crack forms in the Pantheon's dome, a tiny fissure from a small earthquake or the simple stress of time. Water begins to seep in. In modern concrete, this is the beginning of the end. In Roman concrete, this is the beginning of the repair. The water finds one of those sloppy lime clasts. The clast is hydrophilic. It loves water. It dissolves instantly. It creates a supersaturated, calcium-rich solution that floods into the crack. It then recrystallizes, forming new calcium carbonate, stitching the crack shut, often in a matter of weeks. It heals the wound from the inside out. The Romans did not just invent concrete. They invented living concrete, a material with a primitive immune system, a material designed to never die. And this brings us back to us, to today. We live in an age of planned obsolescence. It is the engine of our autonomy. Our phones are designed to fail in 2 years, our cars in 10, and our buildings, our bridges, our dams, our nuclear power plants are designed to fail in 50. We call our material Portland cement. This is the standard gray powder used in virtually every sidewalk, bridge, and building you see today. It is the most used substance on Earth after water. And its production is a climate catastrophe. For every ton of Portland cement we create, we release nearly a ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The cement industry alone is responsible for nearly 8% of all global carbon dioxide emissions. If the cement industry were a country, it would be the third largest emitter on the planet. Behind only China and the United States, it is a dirty, brittle, and temporary material. And this is the material you are surrounded by right now for decades. We looked at the Pantheon, a 2,000-year-old unreinforced structure, and we believed our methods were superior. We dismissed the Roman recipe as primitive. We called their work sloppy. We ignored the evidence right in front of us because it did not fit our narrative of linear progress. The idea that we are always smarter, always better than the past. The Romans built for eternity. It was their philosophy. Their identity was tied to the idea of Rome, the eternal city. They built aqueducts and roads so solid they were seen as divine, not man-made. They were projecting permanence. Our identity is tied to the newest thing. The next upgrade, the next quarter, we build for the next quarterly report. This is the echo of history. It is not just that we lost the recipe for their concrete. We lost the philosophy that came with it. The belief that what you build should last. The belief that we are building for our great-great-grandchildren, not just for ourselves. Today, scientists and engineers around the world are racing to reverse engineer this hot mixing process. The same team at MIT has founded a company to bring this new Roman-inspired concrete to the market. They are trying to recreate this self-healing concrete, not just as a curiosity, but as a necessity. If they succeed, it could change everything. Bridges that repair their own cracks, buildings that last for centuries, not decades, and the most profound discovery. The hot mixing process is less energy-intensive. The concrete itself can be designed to absorb carbon dioxide as it cures, potentially turning our greatest polluter into a carbon sink. The secret to a sustainable future might be locked inside the ruins of our oldest past, but the mystery is not fully solved. We understand the what, the quicklime and the pozzolana, but can we truly replicate the how? The precise temperatures of the hot mixing needed for different climates, the exact ratios known only to the Roman masters, adjusted for different aggregates. The commenta, which varied from Britain to Syria, was there a subtle interaction with specific minerals in their seawater, as seen at Caesarea, that we have not yet reverse-engineered the legends persist, because the full industrial process remains elusive. The Romans left us a challenge, written in stone and seawater. They proved that it is possible to build things that last. They proved that decay is not inevitable. It is a choice. And now, their silent structures stand as a testament and a judgment. They echo a single, profound question across time. If we, with all our technology, cannot build something to last as long as they did, who is the real advanced civilization?